Hey kids, this is a public service announcement from Jonesin'withJeffDrake. I'm your host, Jeff Drake. And the episode you're about to watch, we call it episode 1 because it was the first episode that we recorded, but not the first that was released. The first that was released was the episode with Dave James Garman. This episode is with Tim Napalm Stiegel, the musician and writer from Austin, Texas. We had some audio problems. Plonk has been working on them for weeks, trying to get it up to a level where it's watchable. He think he's done that. I've been told it's actually watchable. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Tim's a great guy, interesting guy, and this was the very first episode. So this is called episode 1, even though I don't know. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good time watching it.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Jonesin' with Jeff Drake.
Calm down, calm down. Sometimes my studio audience gets a little enthusiastic, but hey, kids, this is Jeff Drake, Jonesin' with Jeff Drake. This is a premiere episode of my podcast, Jonesin' with Jeff Drake. I've got a special guest with me today. It's Tim Napalm Stiegel. And before I start, I just want to talk a little bit about what's going on here. This is my podcast. This is the first episode. We're going to talk about music and maybe not, but eventually history and baseball, a little science. I'm going to have guests. My producer Plonk is going to be usually watching and listening, and you won't be able to see him or hear him, but I will. But he's not with us today because he's got an emergency that came up about 2 seconds before we went on the air, so he won't be with us. Occasionally my cats will probably join the episodes. They're a little camera shy now, but when they feel comfortable, I'm sure they'll be joining us, and that's Junior and Piewacket. Junior is the orange one, Piewacket is the tuxedo cat with the messed up markings. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to this episode being the first one, and I've known Tim for a long time. And Tim's a musician and a rock critic and a soon-to-be published author. He just let me know he's done a little acting. I forgot everything you just told me, but we can talk about that maybe. Anyway, without much further ado, here is Tim Napalm Stiegel.
Hi-yo! Hi-yo! Good to see you, Jeff.
Hey, Tim. Good to see you, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm managing to stay dry out here in Austin.
Well, there you go. I'm glad you're safe from the flood. You said you're on top of the hill. Hopefully you'll stay there. So welcome to the show. Yeah. We're going to try to have some fun today. And, I mentioned that you're a musician and a rock critic and a soon-to-be published author. You did a little acting. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is your middle name, Napalm. Now, you were born during the Vietnam War. Was that sort of something that your parents named you to, like, protest the war or to support it? Tell me about that.
Well, it's not quite like your younger brother and his name
Well, he's named after a guitar. His first guitar was a Les Paul Deluxe, and he wasn't really happy with his real middle name, Delbert, and so he picked Deluxe. So, okay, go ahead. Tell us about that.
I wondered if he's going to appreciate you letting the cat out of the bag.
He won't watch this. Come on. He's going to ignore this like he was Noel Gallagher or something. All right.
Actually, Tim, Napalm is not my middle name. My full name is actually Timothy Patrick Stiegel. 2 Irish first names and a German last name, which should tell you about, my provenance there, I guess.
That's Texas, but Germans and Irish.
That's right. That's right. And I became Tim Napalm was my stage name, or my punk rock name, like Johnny Rotten or something like that, or Johnny.
And why did you pick Napalm? Because napalm's like a burning thing that sticks to you and you can't put it out. Is that how you think of
I
yourself?
started using that name when I was in Napalm Stars up in New York City, which is named for a Clash lyric
Okay.
in Charlie Don't Surf. Charlie don't surf for his hamburger mama. He's going to be a napalm star.
Love that
And
song.
you know
Great
that,
song.
yeah, great song, great song. You're
One of the
absolutely
best
right.
songs on Sandinista.
Really is an album that should have been a single LP, I think.
I've heard that before, and maybe a double LP. I don't know. There's a lot of filler.
Yeah,
I
there
think
is.
Mick
There
Jones
is.
was
I
doing a
mean,
lot
you
of
know,
coke at the time and got a little carried away in the studio. They were also trying to get out of their contract with whatever their record label was, and they thought if they gave them a ton of shit that they would just get out of it. Turns out they couldn't. So,
that's
joke
right.
was on
That's
them.
right.
But
It was counted
props
as a
to them
single
for
LP.
trying to stick it to the record company.
Yep.
Now, okay,
But,
so you
yeah,
told us
so
about your middle name. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Tim.
so what I ended up doing was you know, after about 20 years of being Tim Napalm and then as a writer being Tim Stiegel, I figured out that a lot of people didn't realize these two guys were the same guy.
And it's a little schizophrenic.
It's a little schizophrenic, and so I did like Joey Shithead from DOA, and eventually he became Joe Shithead Keithley. You know, so
Is there a Joey Shithead Jr. now? I don't know. They probably
no, he's Joe Shithead Keithley. I'm sure though that when he's in those city council meetings in Burnaby, where he is a seated city councilman on the Green Party ticket, I'm sure he's just Joe Keithley. But yeah, you know, he's been billed on DOA records as Joey Shithead Keithley for about 1985, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
the band you were in for many years was called the Hormones, and I have a joke for you. It's kind of a knock-knock joke. Well, actually, it's not a knock-knock joke at all, and it might not even qualify as a joke at all either. But how do you make a hormone?
Let's see. This is only the 5 millionth time I have heard this one. Don't pay her.
Well, stiff her, which is a sort of a triple entendre. If anybody asks you again, the actual punchline is stiff her, not don't pay her. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So tell me about the Hormones.
Well, the Hormones are still technically going. I mean, I reformed the band in 2012 when I moved back to Austin. Right now, we've been on a hiatus.
When did you start the Hormones?
1986 in Corpus Christi, Texas. We were like the second ever punk band in Corpus. And, you know, there was a band that came before us called Zip. And apparently they must have broken up just before we played our first show. I found out later from their bass player, whom I got to know, that he was at our show, our debut show. We were opening for Detroitston at that time. It was one of the first. It was the first proper punk rock gig in Corpus Christi. I mean, there had been over the years like touring bands coming through. We had Patti Smith in 1978, which was my very first show I ever went to when I was 12. Iggy Pop had come through. The Members. You know, just a few acts like that, but. I helped book that Detroitston show. I wrote a scene report for Maximum Rock and Roll, one of my earliest writings. It was for a scene that did not exist yet. I put my phone number at the bottom, so that anybody wanted to play here, get a hold of me. And yeah, Detroitston called me up at the time, and there's like 10 of us that were kind of knowing each other through reaching for the same Black Flag album at Records Bar in Corpus Christi, Texas. And so we all got our money together. We put in $10 a piece or something like that. We rented
to buy a Black Flag album?
Huh?
To buy a Black Flag album?
No, to rent this hall so that we could put on the show.
Okay.
Yeah, we rented this place that was called the Galvan Ballroom. That was like it was built for big bands and things like that. It had a sprung dance floor and all that stuff. Incredible acoustics in there. And we booked that through one of the people that was part of this gang of 10. And a local new wave band. I think there was the Little Ducks from Mars or somebody like that. They did the sound that night. They brought in their PA. The Hormones did not take any money that night, that lineup. We didn't take any money. We gave the entire door to DeCroixson. It was apparently the first money they made on the tour. They got like $400, $500 that night.
Not bad for those days.
Yeah, and they had just blown their entire tour float, getting their engine fixed in their van in Memphis. So, we gave them a profit at the end of this tour.
And so the Hormones did some recording. We're going to listen to one of your songs now. It's called Sell Out Young. And then after we hear it, I want you to talk about it, okay? So let's listen.
All right.
Okay, we're not really going to listen to it now, but okay. Now the song's over. Okay, that was great, Tim. Why don't you tell us about Sell Out Young?
Well, I have to say that lineup of the Hormones that formed in Corpus in '86 broke up that night. The drummer went off to college at UT. The bass player went off on a trip to Russia, I believe, if I remember correctly. And for a few years there, I did not have a band because overnight, the Corpus punk scene instantly became a speed metal, thrash metal scene. A band called Anchor Watt had formed, and it just transformed the scene overnight. And I'm 21 years old and getting told I'm too old to play too slow. I'm playing about as fast as the Ramones, the band that I heard around that time called the Joneses.
Probably about as fast as you can, right?
Yeah.
Without, some kind of enhancement.
Exactly. So I concentrated. I'd started the first fanzine in the area, Noise, Noise, Noise. Did 2 issues, and that led to me contributing to Flipside and Your Flesh and, all that stuff, and basically starting my rock journalism career. And I moved to Austin in 1991, about 2 months before Smells Like Teen Spirit came out. 2 months after Johnny Thunders had died. And I
right about the time I went to prison.
Exactly. So I started getting a new lineup of the Hormones together there with Ron Williams, the bass player of the Pocket Fisherman, and Jesus Christ Superfly, and he and I are still partners in this band. So we got this lineup together with this guy named Tim Hayes, who came down here from Seattle. He had been in a band called the Kings of Rock. That was very, very garagey. We eventually got a drummer 2 years later, and we started gigging around here. And Sell Out Young was recorded in a session with Tim Kerr from the Big Boys. He was the producer. And that was our first single. I wrote that song about the Manic Street Preachers. When I moved to Austin, they were starting to make a big noise in the English rock press, doing this. They were doing this thing that was basically like Hanoi Rocks meets the early Clash. It was glam punk.
They claimed that their big influences were the Sex Pistols and Guns N' Roses, is what they claimed.
Yeah,
and you can hear it.
Yeah,
and
Public Enemy. Believe it or not, I heard some Cheap Trick in there as well, and I love Cheap Trick. But
that first album was great. The one with Motown.
It was, but I liked the singles that they did before that album better.
Yeah, those were.
And that was the thing. They actually were saying in the press. Okay, I'm sorry. You're saying something, Jeff? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just sitting here.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a little bit of a delay here, but Anyway, so yeah, they kept saying in the press that they were willingly selling out. They wanted to be exploited by their record company. And, they intentionally wanted to record an album like, Appetite for Destruction, and I
Well, I
just,
remember them saying they were going to sell like 60 million copies of their first record or something like that. It was ridiculous.
yeah, and then they were going to break up. They didn't do
And
that.
one of them disappeared forever.
Yes.
So
I've
you've been talking about 10 minutes, Tim, and you haven't mentioned my influence on you. Why don't you go ahead and talk about that? I'm sure that's what everybody's watching wants to hear.
Okay, so I got, one of the first records I got to review as a budding rock journalist was a little record called Keeping Up with the Joneses. It was sent to me by a magazine I was writing for at the time called Jet Lag out of St. Louis. And I couldn't believe it when I heard it, because it was just like, this was at a time where, like I said, Metallica was becoming the big thing. And here's this band that's obviously influenced by early punk, by the New York Dolls especially, and you also had these country influences. And now, I hated cowpunk when it came along, but the Joneses were coming to it from a very organic, very real place, just like another band of that time that I loved called Jason and the Scorchers. And you proved to me that this roots music that was around, that I grew up with, being a Southerner, being a Texan, could be the basis for punk rock. And that made a big impact on me.
Well, it's
That
very
really
kind of you to
did.
say that, Tim.
Well, it's the truth. And you were just, I could relate to the way you sang. I could relate to the songwriting. The songs were great. The playing was great.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You had a very, very big impact on me. And then years later, when the hormones are getting out there and, becoming connected with different bands, I got connected with the Humpers. We got connected with the Humpers. And then I find out that their singer is your brother.
Right.
It was like, what? Really? I was so excited when Scott, when it was finally revealed to me that Scott is your younger brother and everything. And years and years later, I finally get to see the Joneses, and you and I meet. And I was just, I could see yeah, it was 2007, and I could see, you guys have very, very similar speech patterns. I could see the familial stuff going on there. I could see the shared DNA going on there, and it was kind of cool, man. I've now gotten to know you better than I know Scott, and I really appreciate that,
Okay. And so you said that the Keeping Up with the Joneses is one of the first records you ever reviewed. Why don't you talk a little bit about how you became the rock critic that you are today?
It was all by accident. I basically, everything I've done in my life has been because I've been taking a look at things and seeing, well, I'm not hearing the band I want to hear. So I formed a punk rock band. I wasn't seeing people writing about music that I loved in the way that Lester Bangs wrote about it. And so
your big writing hero, right?
Yes. Lester is absolutely my biggest influence as a writer. Him and Hunter S. Thompson. And that just resonated with me. It was a language that sounded like the records I loved, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It was an attitude expressed in a language and a sense of humor. Absolutely. And that was what I wanted to do. And, so I started a fanzine Well, before that, I was writing record reviews for my campus newspaper because this was in my drinking days, and one of my drinking buddies became the editor of the campus newspaper at the college I was attending and said, Tim, you can write, you know about music. Why don't you come over here and be a rock critic? We could pay you $25 a week, you know, to get 3 records. I said, 3 records? Okay. But, you know, I did the fancy couple of issues, and it started getting attention, and I'm starting to get people like Jet Lag and then Flipside and Your Flesh asking me if I'd write for them. And eventually I was getting noticed by major record companies that are starting alternative marketing departments, as they call them, to promote, you know, these weird little underground bands they were signing at the time, like Jane's Addiction and things like that. And I got flown up to Cleveland to cover a band for Warner Brothers called Disneyland After Dark, although here in America they had to be called DAD for legal reasons. And nobody at the label understood what this band was doing, and they kept telling me, oh, they're a little like AC/DC, they're a little like the Cult. After 2 songs, I went up to them and I said, have you fuckers ever heard of Hanoi Rocks? And so at that show, I met Mike Shea, who was the publisher of Alternative Press. It was at the time of fanzine, and he wanted to move it into being a fully slick, you know, newsstand publication. I had just done this interview with Steve Jones that nobody wanted to run, and that became my first article for Alternative Press. It was the first time I got a check for something I wrote, and that's what made me a professional. 10 years later, I dropped out of college and moved up to Austin and started writing for the Austin Chronicle and then a bunch of other magazines. And yeah, that's basically how I've paid my rent since I was about, 24 years old or something.
Wow,
like
so,
that.
you know, getting paid for doing something is incentive to do it again, to do it some more, right?
That's right.
You thought this isn't so
right.
bad
Plus,
getting paid for
I was
this,
on
right?
a mission. This was music.
Okay. So we're going to take another little break. We're going to listen to another one of your songs. This is called Castaway. Okay. Did you hear me? We're going to take a little break. We're going to do another one of your songs called Castaway. And then after it's played, we're going to talk about Castaway, okay? Let's listen to it.
All right. Sounds great.
Okay, that was great. You want to tell us about that song, Tim?
That was our third single for Empty Records out of Seattle. It was the first time I produced the band myself. Tim Kerr was not available at that time.
Did you enjoy doing that, producing yourself? Do you like that?
I did. I learned a lot just watching Tim Kerr working in the studio, and a couple of other people, Jeff Smith from the Hickwoods. Huh?
Who's Tim Kerr? The guy from the Big Boys?
Tim Kerr was one of the leader of the Big Boys at one time, and you know, he'd been in some bands like Poison 13 and you know, Lord High Fixers and different bands like that. Jacko Fire here in Austin, but yeah, he took a big interest in the Hormones, and he produced our very first recording session, and that was what our first 2 singles came from.
When the Joneses first played in Austin in 1983, we stayed at Tim Kerr's house, and we did a show at this place called Club Foot with the Big Boys. It was wild. It was a huge show. We had a great time. There's all these girls backstage lifting up their tops and stuff. It was crazy. So you did the Hormones. You're a rock critic, and then at some point you decide, I'm gonna, you know, hit the big time and write a book. Why don't you tell me about that?
Well, that took many years before I got to that. That was only about 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, this is only an hour podcast, so we're cutting to the chase here.
I understand that. I understand that. But yeah, I left alternative press about 2 or 3 years ago. Mike Shea had sold it, and he went off to he had all this money from the sale, and he just came to me about 6 months after I left AP.
Was he selling drugs or something? Where did he get all this money?
From selling alternative press.
Oh, okay.
It was sold to the members of a very, very famous pop punk band who I will not name names here. But anyway,
sorry.
That's okay.
Turn my phone on.
That's okay. Anyway,
go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
But yeah, he sold the magazine, got a lot of money, and he came to me 6 months later and said, "I want to start a small press, and I want to start it with a book by Tim Stiegel." And that became what this is. It was initially supposed to be just like a coffee table photo book of 150 of the best punk album covers of the 70s with a little blurb at the bottom written by me. That ended up becoming a history of 70s punk rock told through the stories of those albums. Written by me.
And the title of your book is going to be Anarchy in the Studio, right?
Yes, the complete title is Anarchy in the Studio, the Punk Music 1970 to 1979, The Rise of Punk Rock. On
1970? You're starting punk rock in 1970? Okay, do you have a release date, a prospective release date? I know how that goes, like it always changes, but do you have a release date in mind?
It's going to be in the fall. I was just informed that definitely we're going on pre-sale next month in August.
Okay. And at the end of the show, we're going to have tell people where to get a link to get to find out about your book and Hormones, music, and all that stuff. And I hope that's a big success. I know you deserve it. You've been paying your dues for a long time.
Thank you.
So that's interesting. You started your history of punk rock in 1970. I know it's hard to
kind
of
it's the history of 70s punk. So let's get that straight. I do go in the forward talking about how as I put it, before punk rock, there was punk rock. Before that, there was punk rock. And I'm sure if you dig even further, there's punk rock. I go all the way back to Dada in this introduction. And I start talking about different things like the blues, early rock and roll. And I start going through the 60s stuff that we all know. But
Tim, that's not really fair to the cavemen that were banging sticks on rocks, That's punk rock. But it's interesting that you cut it off at 1979. That's the end of the 70s, so that makes sense. But that's about the time that I stopped considering myself a punk rocker. Once the Sex Pistols broke up and Sid Vicious died, as far as I was concerned, punk rock was over. The Clash were becoming a rock band. And, you and I were talking the other day about your hair and about sort of age-appropriate look for an old punk rocker. Do you still consider yourself a punk rocker?
Absolutely, because unlike you, I don't think the punk died with Sid Vicious overdosing, and that's this is going to be a series of books. We're going to start working on a 2-volume 80s book probably in January, and then there's going to be a 90s one. I mean, we could go all the way up to the present as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
do you consider the Joneses a punk rock band?
Absolutely.
You do, because I don't, but a lot of people do.
I do. I absolutely do.
I wouldn't hold that against you. That's fine. I considered myself a punk rocker when I was a teenager, and it changed my life. I loved it. I mean, Sex Pistols, Clash, all that stuff. I was just the right age. I was 16 in 1977. So I was, and then before that, I'd been into the Dolls and the Ramones and all that kind of, stuff. So I was ready for it.
Right.
So, we're talking about age-appropriate punk rockism or punk rockness or whatever. how are you handling that? I mean, I'm older than you are, and I let my hair go gray about 10 years ago. Um, you said you were having some kind of existential struggles with, how to handle all that. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, it's like I still have the same ideas. I still have the same philosophy that I've had all my life. But yeah, I'm about to turn 60. I'm not that much younger than you, Jeff.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. And it's like,
That's a big one. It's traumatic. I've been there. It's horrible.
I mean, yeah, it's like, for one thing, I'm having to buy my clothes about 2 sizes bigger than I did for most of my life. Um, and I find myself thinking a little bit like, well, do I really want to wear a shirt that's marketing some band? It's
Do
like,
I really want to have to tuck my shirt in? That's what I struggle with.
yeah, do I really want to be advertising someone else's band or something like that? I'm considering a lot of things like that, and yeah, I'm going gray. I'm going a little thin up here. It's like, do I continue spiking my hair? At the moment, yeah, I'm going to say yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. You said you don't like to advertise other people's bands on shirts. Do you wear hormone shirts?
Sometimes.
Do you?
And
Okay.
I'll still wear a Ramones shirt or some graphic tee or something like that. But most of the time, I'm wearing a plain black T-shirt, or
That's kind of nihilistic, Tim. Kind of nihilistic. I know what you're saying. I don't wear a lot of like current bands. Like I don't have an Oasis shirt, but I wear like a lot of Stones 70s stuff. I've got a Mott the Hoople Brain Capers shirt, New York Doll, stuff like that. So I hear you. It's like I like to honor the bands. That's pretty much still what I listen to. That and maybe some dub music and stuff like that. But so you're adjusting to becoming like like an adult punk rocker. Do you think that changes things from being like a youngster who's getting drunk at every opportunity, and now you're like checking the bananas to make sure they're ripe enough? How is it different now that you're an adult punk rocker?
Well, yeah, it's like, you realize after a while that anarchy is not a workable philosophy, that, destroy is not a workable philosophy. I think it's why I came to appreciate the Clash a lot more than the Sex Pistols as I got older. I love the Pistols and all that, but they just basically came along, smashed up everything, and then walked away. As I put it, the Clash kind of came in behind them and looked around at this rubble and said, well, what can we build on top of this now?
Okay.
It's construction rather than destruction. It's like,
Sounds a little bit more positive.
What do you actually value? What do you hold dear? What is it that you want to do with this?
Heroin?
It's like, well, no. But I'm just...
I did for a long time. But yeah,
I know you did.
You got to put that down eventually. You got to got to set it down. Get out of the spoon.
I'm alcohol and drug free at this point, and have been for a while. I'm hesitant to call myself straight edge.
Or sober. That sounds so ugly.
Yeah.
Sounds so dreary, and it's like, just kill me, just kill me. I want to let everybody know, while Tim's giggling, that Tim has a Substack. What do you call that? A Substack column, a Substack page? How do you refer to your Substack?
It's a Substack page. It's the Tim Napalm Steagle Substack. You can get there at Tim Napalm Steagle, one word, lowercase, .substack.com.
Okay, and I'm a loyal subscriber. I pay every month, and I read your stuff. And lately, like you said, it's been sort of a punk rock obituary column. A lot of our heroes, have been passing away. We're all getting to that age, and the people that we listened to back then are just by the way things are, older than us. And David Johansen just passed, and all the Ramones have been dead for a long time. Joe Strummer died a long time ago. Sid Vicious, like I said, 1979, but everybody knew he was going to die.
Clem Burke.
So,
just
how do you feel
away.
about writing all these obituaries of your heroes?
It makes me sad. I don't like the fact that the Substacks.
You realize we're all going to die someday, right? You've come to grips with that. It happens to all of us.
It does, but that doesn't make me any happier about it. But
right,
right now I'm running not just one, but a series of pieces that are going to be cumulatively my elegy to David Johansen. Because that's just a story that needs to be told. There's so many facets to it. Not just the dolls, but there's a little bit about his solo stuff coming up. There's even this little bit about Buster Poindexter and all that. And telling the story of how they reformed for a little while there.
What did you think about the New York Dolls Part 2? The 21st Century New York Dolls.
They were great, I thought. No.
I hated it. Every note of it. I hated it.
Well, I didn't. And some of the music was, I mean, even Sylvain was not happy after a while because some of it could be just like a bar band with David Johansen singing, basically. Some of it was up to the Dolls standard, I felt. There was a song that was a B-side called Beauty School that could have fit in on the first two albums. And I enjoyed them live. I actually roadied for them during the South by Southwest weekend. And
I saw them on their first tour when they came back. I think it was the Waldorf in San Francisco, and I couldn't wait to leave. I was just so sorry that I went. It was like 100 miles from where I lived in Merced, and at that venue, there's no place to sit down, so I was on my feet the whole time. And as an older guy, that's you want to sit down every once in a while. I wasn't really impressed with Steve Conti. I'm sorry, Steve, but you're no Johnny Thunders, and I know you weren't trying to be, but those are big shoes to fill. I had done some shows in the 90s, and Joe was still Sylvain, and he was great. He's also just recently passed. I mean, not as recently as David Johansen, but, they're dropping like flies. Is there somebody I'm forgetting, somebody else that just died that we need to pay our respects to? You're in the in crowd, so you've got that inside track on all that stuff.
Well, like I said, there was Clem Burke.
Clem Burke. Great.
And
I played with last year.
Yeah, and like last year, all the remaining members of the MC5 passed away.
I never liked the MC5. I'm sorry. Or the Stooges. I'm sorry. Throw something at me. I'm sorry. I like music.
Well, I won't hold that against you, Jeff.
In fact, my favorite Iggy records are Lust for Life and The Idiot. So that's how lame I am.
Those are good ones, though.
They are. Thank you, Jim.
But
I can't listen to the first two Stooges records. I just can't. It's so dissonant and ugly to me. I like Raw Power. I was in a band right after high school that covered a couple songs off that record. But that's a little different. That's a little different from those first Stooges albums. My brother loves that stuff, and the MC5. He's a huge fan. I've never owned an MC5 record. I never will. I can't listen to them. Can't.
Well, that makes one of us.
I realize that's not a popular opinion in the circles that we travel in. So I usually don't announce that, but here we are. I'm coming out. I don't like the Stooges or MC5. I'm sorry, but you'll forgive me, I'm sure.
Yes, like I said, I won't hold that against you.
So, what are your future plans, Tim? You said you've got that this book you're writing is at least going to be a trilogy. You said you've got a 2-volume '80s version coming out and a '90s version.
Yep.
So you can talk about that if you want, or anything else that you've got coming up your sleeves, so to speak.
I've got other book ideas in the works. I'm supposed to be getting a contract for another book that I'm going to write immediately after we finish editing.
It's not a Jeff Drake biography, is it?
Not well. That's already been done.
Oh, and I guess I should let people know that you wrote one of the forwards to my book. Thank you, Tim. That was very well written, and it was an honor to have you writing the first part. You and Pleasant sort of twin forwards for my book, and that was really great. Thank you so much for doing that. And
well, thank you for asking me.
That book that I wrote.
Thank you for asking me. I was honored that you did, and I was honored to be there with, my dear friend Pleasant, who I greatly admire. She absolutely is just a great person.
Great person. Great belly dancer. Great writer.
She and I are kind of twins in a way. We've done a lot of similar things. but I've got some. I've got enough. I'm about to sign a book deal.
It's not a Jeff Drake biography.
Not the Jeff Drake biography. Like we've already said, that's been done and done a lot better than I would.
That was an autobiography, Tim. I wrote that about myself.
Yes, I know that. No, it counts. It counts.
That's just me blowing my own horn, patting myself on the back. Making a big deal about myself, like I tend to do.
But I can't really talk about what this next book is going to be.
Right, you don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But there is
the cat out of the bag. There's going to be another book coming up, and I've got a lot of stuff in the fire.
So that's what you've decided you've decided that books are how you want to proceed now. That's you sort of come to the point where books are what it's all about for you now, pretty much.
I've always
in the
writing.
I mean, I'm not saying you're going to stop playing music or anything, but as far as the writing, you're going to concentrate more on books rather than smaller, more digestible bits.
I like the extended rhythm of writing a book. I like being able to tell all aspects of a certain subject. I like being able to tell these extended stories. It's all about having a great story. That's always been the base.
I'm curious about your writing method. Being a published author myself, do you? I'll tell you how I did it, and then you can tell me how it's different from how you did it. I had a really, because I'm not a writer like you are. It was a sort of probably a one-time thing for me. I had a really hard time getting started. I would write about an hour a week, and that's enough, and I was getting nowhere. And then once I decided that I was going to be serious about writing a book, I started writing every day for as long as I could stand it until my back started hurting. And then I kind of got into a rhythm, and I felt like if I didn't do that all day, that I was wasting my time. And after that, I was just churning it out, and it's like vomiting, and I couldn't stop vomiting up all this stuff. Tell me about how your writing method, if you would.
I've had to be a lot more disciplined the last 15 years since I came back to writing than I was even when I was a younger man. I couldn't tell you what my process actually was when I was starting out and writing during the 90s. I just kind of sat and did it. But
got drunk,
not drunk back then, but
okay.
But
that came later because most writers are drunks, alcoholics.
This is
a lot of them. Hemingway.
This is very true. It wasn't the case for me. I gave up booze very, very early on. But
okay, good for you. I've been boozeless for about 15 years, so congratulations.
But when I came back, I just started this little. I would get up in the morning, have like a 2-hour breakfast TV watching session, whatever the case might be, just trying to get myself in a good mood, drinking a pot of coffee, and I sit down and I have several different projects I'm usually working on at once. And each one of those, my goal is to write 500 words on whatever the project is. And then I put it away and move on to the next thing. With doing the book, there's a lot. The books, plural, I should say. There's a lot more research involved. It's not just me, interviewing some band and then, writing a feature story out of that, or listening to a record over and over and writing a review based on that. So yeah, it's a little bit of a different process. But I try to make sure there's some humor in there. I try to make sure there's some poetry in there. I want something that I would want to read. I don't think anybody else is going to want to read something if I don't want to read it. I don't want it to be boring. I don't want it to be academic. A writer I greatly admired was somebody I started reading when I was living in Los Angeles, like in 2009, 2010. And it was the food critic for the LA Weekly, Jonathan Gold. And that guy wrote like he was sitting next to you at a bar and saying, "Have you ever thought about this or that?" And I loved that. I loved that. He drew you in that way. You became part of it in a way, the reader. And, it just felt like this cool confidant that you had now talking to you about this taco stand. And, he's writing about taco stands and things like that and street food with all the love that Lester devoted to, the MC5 or something.
Right.
Or Lou
So
Reed.
You mentioned that you've usually got several projects going on at the same time. Do you find it hard to compartmentalize without having them bleed into each other? And what do you do to keep them separate in your mind?
Well, I am working on whatever project I am working on at that time. That's it.
That makes sense.
I'm just able to do that.
Okay. Cool. I've only ever had one project, and so it was easy for me just to have tunnel vision, sort of focus on that, and not do anything else, because I usually try to do as little as possible, as much as possible. So, yeah, I mean, having multiple projects to me is just like an alien concept.
Well, you did great. You did great with that one project, Jeff. I mean, the writing
thank
is
you,
just
Jim. I
great.
wasn't fishing for compliments, but thank you very much. That means a lot coming from an actual writer.
It's so funny because your brother asked me whenever he found out that I was writing the foreword, he said, "What's Jeff's book like?" And I said, "Jeff's book is brilliant. Jeff's a great writer." And he said, "I thought it would be."
It's funny because he kept asking me, he wanted like an advance copy. He kept wanting, I'm like, no, you're going to have to wait like everybody else. I think he was afraid it was going to be about him or something. Actually, my dad, God rest his soul, he just passed on Christmas Eve. He thought the book was going to be about what a bad father he was. And I'm like, no, that was not my intention. And then you'll notice I didn't include that in my book. But anyway, my mom thought there was a couple things about her that I left out. Like, Mom, the book was not about you. Anyway, so Scott finally saw it, and I think he was relieved that I didn't just trash him. Like, I think he was afraid I was going to, but why would I do that? It wasn't that kind of a book. It was about me, why would I waste all that ink on other people, Anyway, Tim, we're going to have to wrap this up in a little bit. At the end of the show, I'm going to let people know where to find information about your book and your Substack and your music. And I want to thank you for coming on our premiere episode of Jones and with Jeff Drake. It's been great having you on. We don't get to see each other that often. In fact, we've only seen each other in person once in our long lives. So it's great being able to share this time with you and talk about music and writing and everything that we talked about. So thanks for being on the show. And I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you being on with me. It's really great.
I'm honored you asked me. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for making me your first guest,
You're welcome, man. I'm glad I did. So anyway, we're going to say goodbye now. Everybody say goodbye to Tim. And like I said, we're going to let people know where to find your information about your book, your music, your Substack. And I don't know if we're going to be doing updates about guests or not, but if we do, we'll be sure to let people know what you're up to and where to find you.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Jeff. And if you ever want to have me back, I'm open. I'm open.
Okay. And if I'm ever in Austin, I got a place to stay, right?
Absolutely.
I'm just kidding. Absolutely. You don't want me in your place. You're kidding me. Okay, Tim, we're going to say goodbye now. Have a good day.
Goodbye now. Take care, Jeff.
Bye, kids.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tim.
Bye, everyone.